A judge has a great deal of discretion or choice as to what conditions may be placed on a sentence. And certainly the desires of the victim in that regard are considered at the time of sentencing. In deciding a sentence, a judge must consider several things. The judge should consider the nature of the crime, specifically the details of the crime, the character of the defendant, the impact that this particular crime has had on the victim and on the community as a whole. The judge looks at the rehabilitative needs of the defendant. And the judge also must obviously consider what the judge is allowed by law to impose as a sentence in terms of a statutory maximum.
Ms. Doe, is there anything you wish to say before I impose sentence?
No, Your Honor.
In imposing sentence, I consider the fact that you have a prior instance in which you engaged in the same kind of behavior. And despite the fact that you were under supervision at the time and given anger management classes, you've made the same choice again to victimize another person because of your anger. In this case, the victim suffered injuries. Therefore, I do not believe a sentence of probation is appropriate in this case because it would denigrate the seriousness of this offense. Therefore, I impose a sentence of 6 to 23 months in the Bucks County Prison. Conditions of the sentence are that you have no contact with the victim, that you undergo a mental health evaluation, and abide by any recommendations of that evaluation. You have 10 days to file for reconsideration of sentence and 30 days to appeal my sentence to the Superior Court. Those motions must be filed in writing with the court.
Whether or not a defendant goes to a county jail or a state penitentiary is determined by two things. It's determined by the length of the sentence and the judge's decision. And by that I mean this. If a defendant is sentenced to less than 2 years as a maximum sentence, the defendant automatically goes to a county jail, and the judge has sole control over what happens to that defendant. If the sentence is less than 5 years, then a judge can decide that the defendant should serve that sentence in the county or it should be served in the state.
I'll walk this way.
One of the sentences a judge may impose or give a defendant is probation. Probation means that a defendant will be supervised by a probation officer. If a defendant is on probation, they must live where they have been directed to live. That is, they can't leave the area without permission. The defendant may be required to complete certain kinds of treatment. The defendant may be asked to be tested will be told they have to be tested routinely for drugs or alcohol. The defendant may be limited in terms of what contact they may be able to have with a victim or a particular area. So any number of conditions can be placed on the defendant, and the defendant will be required to complete them during the period of probation.